Welcome back, folks. We're diving into multilateralism with Chinese characteristics and its transformative role in reshaping global partnerships.
Absolutely. There's so much to unpack from the recent discussion. Let's start with the early segments: Chinese development and energy.
Right, so the discussion kicks off by exploring how China's development model isn't just focused on rapid economic growth, but also on how it's fueling energy innovations. It's like they're investing heavily in renewable energy while still upholding some of the traditional energy strengths.
Yeah, that juxtaposition is pretty fascinating. The blend of modernization and sustaining legacy systems.
Exactly. And it's not only about economic power, it's also about making energy more accessible, both domestically and on the international stage. This accessibility chapter stressed how China is laying out infrastructures that ensure energy reaches remote regions, a strategic move that has far reaching implications in global development.
Right. And speaking of global development, wasn't there an emphasis on how these initiatives create bridges between nations?
Yes, absolutely. It's almost like a grand multi layered chess game where each piece, whether energy policies or infrastructure projects, is moving toward building global networks. This is where multilateralism, with distinctly Chinese characteristics,
Yeah.
really emerges.
So, would you say that China's approach is more about smart diplomacy than, let's say, traditional hard power politics?
I'd say it's a blend of both. I mean, they're definitely not shying away from showcasing their military might. Remember the segment on the military parade and its implications? But at the same time, they are leveraging economic and technological tools to make diplomatic inroads.
Yep, right. But here's something that puzzles me a bit. Isn't there a risk that such a dual strategy might confuse international partners about China's true intentions?
That's a fair point. It does raise questions on whether the integration of military posturing with soft power diplomacy could be seen as, contradictory. But the argument is that by using like a multifaceted approach, China is actually broadening its appeal.
Interesting. It does seem like a double edged sword. On one hand, you have effective engagement, while on the other, there's potential for misinterpretation of its strategic objectives.
Exactly. Moving further into the conversation, another major segment focused on what they called the next frontier, which really looked at future technological diversification. It's like they're planning not just for the present, but for an innovation rich
Absolutely.
future.
And in that context, did they discuss any specific fields where China is looking to lead?
Definitely. The talk highlighted areas such as AI, green technology, and advanced manufacturing. They painted a picture of a future where technological breakthroughs will be indispensable in driving further multilateral cooperation. Think of it as a carefully engineered ecosystem where different technological advancements empower all sorts of international collaborations.
It's almost like they want to be the epicenter of a new global tech renaissance, isn't it?
Absolutely, it is. And speaking of ecosystems, the segment on global development really drilled down into how the Chinese model of multilateralism promotes inclusivity. Instead of the old us versus them narrative, they're forging partnerships that emphasize mutual benefits and shared growth.
Yeah, I get that. It's a refreshing twist compared to, let's say, the more exclusive alliances of the past. But isn't there a concern that this approach might also be a strategic maneuver to expand influence without overt coercion?
I agree. That's where some critics might raise eyebrows. While it appears collaborative on the surface, there is always the underlying strategic calculus. However, the proponents argue that this helps in creating a more balanced global order with room for diverse voices, something that's been largely missing.
I see. Right. Now, what do you make of the discussion around future and risks? That segment seemed loaded with cautionary notes.
Oh, yes, that part was crucial. It acknowledged that while multilateral engagement brings immense opportunities, it isn't without risks, geopolitical tensions, economic dependencies, and technological vulnerabilities. It was like, a balanced take, recognizing the promise while not ignoring the pitfalls.
True, true. Indeed, it's a bit like driving on a highway where you have to balance speed with careful navigation of potential hazards.
That's a solid analogy. And then there's the segment on multilateralism with 21st century characteristics. this essentially encapsulated how this new form of partnership isn't merely about economics or military might, it's about integrating digital diplomacy, cultural exchanges, and
Right.
sustainable development principles.
It's like they are redefining the script for international relations for a new era, one that's more inclusive and adaptive.
Exactly, and it challenges traditional Western dominated models of multilateralism. Now, one could argue that while their approach is innovative, it does present a sort of
Yeah,
ideological
that's a critical
rebranding.
viewpoint. And in that context, do you think this approach is sustainable in the long run, or is it more of a temporary strategy?
It's hard to say. On one hand, the breadth of initiatives, from energy access to global tech ecosystems, suggests a long term vision. On the other, maintaining such an expansive strategy requires constant recalibration, especially with unexpected global challenges like pandemics or economic downturns.
I can see that. That makes sense. And if I may challenge that a bit, it could be argued that a strategy built on rapid adaptation might, in instances, lose its core focus. Imagine being so multifaceted that there's no clear narrative to sell to international partners.
That's a sharp critique, and I agree to some extent. There's a risk of dilution, where the diversity of strategies might over time obscure the core principles that initially resonated with partners. But then again, the strength of multilateralism with Chinese characteristics is in its flexibility and responsiveness.
Right, exactly. It's like trying to manage a complex orchestra. Each section must be tuned, yet collectively they produce the symphony.
Perfect analogy. And just to touch on the military aspects again, the discussion didn't shy away from pointing out that military parades and strategic displays are not just for show. They serve as both a deterrent and a reassurance to domestic populations that China is safeguarding its interests even as it stretches its influence abroad.
Very interesting. Right, it's a kind of tangible signal, isn't it? A reminder of power without resorting to overt aggression.
Exactly. It's subtle, but potent. And as we reach the later segments of the discussion, the outro even, the key takeaway is that this model of multilateralism marries strategic ambition with collaborative idealism. It's a path that, if navigated skillfully, could redefine global cooperation for the 21st century.
Yeah, that resonates. Would you say then that China is positioning itself as a new kind of global mediator? One that values technological innovation and sustainable growth as much as traditional power metrics?
Absolutely. It's like they're rewriting the rulebook. Instead of simply asserting dominance through military or economic might, they're investing in our common future. Yeah, they're fostering networks that are not solely transactional but transformative in nature.
Sounds promising. Yet, as we discussed earlier, this rebranding does invite skepticism. Some argue it's a guise for expanding influence under a veneer of global cooperation. How do you view that tension?
I think it's an inevitable duality in any grand strategy. While there's a genuine push for inclusive development, there remains a calculated element to the approach. It's that subtle dance between idealism and realism. You know, like trying to serve two masters at once.
Right, I see that. True. And in terms of practical outcomes, we'll likely see more partnerships and infrastructure projects that embody these principles. But we need to stay vigilant about potential pitfalls, especially as power dynamics shift.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up, it's clear that multilateralism with Chinese characteristics is not just a policy maneuver, it's an evolving narrative. A narrative that will continue challenging existing global norms while inspiring new dialogues about development, security, and innovation.
Yeah, no doubt. Agreed. This conversation really underscores the complexity of modern geopolitics and how the interplay between tradition and innovation shapes our world. Thanks for an insightful discussion.
Thank you too. It's been a deep dive into a multifaceted topic, and the journey is just beginning. Until next time, keep questioning and exploring these global narratives.